And I am back. Welcome, everyone. Welcome if you are new. Um, Yesterday, I did a video about making this distinction, trying to make a useful distinction between a um, controlled demolition versus an uncontrolled demolition, and how you have to really choose to do a controlled demolition. And most people don't like the idea. First of all, the word demolition is in there, so that sounds like a bad move. But most people just can't give up their current privileges, their current pleasures, their current patterns, right? Habits, even expectations. There's a certain amount of normalcy bias that the future will be like the present is like the past, and that there's a clear line of what we call progress, right? From the past to the future, and the line is a straight line, and there's nothing interrupting the line, and the line is the thing. The line, the thing, the progress is the thing. Constant progress. It's really a religion. It's a religious movement in the West, probably since the Industrial Revolution, maybe before. Christianity has a lot to do with it. Christianity has the idea of being non-optimal, but through practice and dedication, you become you advance, right? And the ultimate goal, and it's a goal, it's a line. There's this trajectory. Your life begins, you go through trials and tribulations, and then you die, and then you go to heaven. See, that's the goal. So this idea of progress to the ultimate heavenly progress is kind of baked into the cake with Christianity. So it's not too surprising that most people who consider themselves to be citizens of what we call euphemistically the West, right? Western civilization, have this idea of progress, and that we must constantly advance. And capitalism and consumerism, its stepchild, have perverted this idea of, well, we're going to go to heaven as an inevitable outcome of certain lifestyle choices, that we're going to go to heaven. Capitalism and its offspring, consumerism, have perverted that message of progress to mean not through lifestyle choices or proper living or reading the Bible or whatever. That whole trajectory has been subverted into buying certain brands, living a certain way, single family home, college education, 401k, cars, driving, vacations, Disneyland, all that stuff. And therefore you progress in your life, in your community as a whole, and we all go to heaven or something, right? I mean, not really. You don't buy your way into heaven, but that whole Christian message has been subverted to this idea of constant progress leads to constant improvement and heavenly goals, living the good life. So when you come along later and you say, yeah, wow, we really kind of screwed the pooch here with this fossil fuel consumption. We're just going to have to give that up real quick, like 40 years ago, real quick. And that's going to lead to deprivations of various kinds. You're not going to have all your shiny things. Maybe some people will, but we don't really care about those people. Those are the elites. And it's going to be ugly. It's going to be hard. It's going to be embarrassing and humiliating to live a different life. It could also be a really good life, and of course, any life should be preferable to not having a life. Another way of saying being dead. So, I would think that we ought to be looking at ways to survive. That we haven't had to do that in a couple of 100 years, most of us, doesn't mean that can continue forever. And all indications are that now it has come to an end. We must abandon our reliance and really our addiction to fossil fuels. And when we do that, we will undergo our civilization, Western civilization, but really all of it's global civilization now, right? Western civilization has triumphed, for better or for worse. I mean, it's not bad, right? We've all enjoyed it. But okay, whether you've enjoyed it or not, it was good for you or not, whether you participated or not, doesn't matter. Now it's over. Fold up the circus tent and it's done. So, because we must abandon our reliance on fossil fuels, because burning fossil fuels to do anything, even progress, burning fossil fuels to save lives, and burning fossil fuels to improve people's lives, and burning fossil fuels to eliminate poverty, and all those things, right? It doesn't matter why you were doing it, or 4 times a year to Disneyland. Whatever you were doing to burn fossil fuels, turns out that heated the planet. And the heating of the planet is going to kill a bunch of people. So, yeah, on the one hand, we were elevating people out of poverty and elevating people into prosperity and creating a middle class and progress and going to heaven and all that stuff. On the other hand, we destroyed the planet. So, gonna have to weigh that out sometime, people. You're gonna have to figure that out. So, I was making a case yesterday for controlled demolition. Now, I'm not just some old curmudgeon who's bitching constantly about people's using fossil fuels and destroying the planet and all that kind of stuff. I'm not some old bitter hippie. I mean, maybe I'm an old bitter hippie. I don't know, but that's not really my motivation. My motivation is I'm a scientist, and these things are true. This is what's really happening. This is a fact. It's a fact. It's not true like, the Bible is true. These things are true because they're real. These things are really happening. It's instrumental. We can measure it. We have instruments on the Earth, in space, on airplanes and ships. We can measure what's happening with the Earth. We know what's happening. It's real. It's really happening. The planet is heating, and it's catastrophic. Some parts of the planet are heating measurably faster than others. It's going to be seriously catastrophic for those people. And just recently, we're knocking on the door of crossing the very, very frightening prospect of crossing 2 degrees C above a pre-industrial baseline. That was supposed to not happen, people. That was supposed to not happen. And I know they'll say, well, we'll drop back down. Well, maybe we will, maybe we won't, but we weren't supposed to cross it at all. That wasn't in the cards. That was never a prediction. No one predicted that. No one predicted that. This year, we would go over 2.0 degrees C above a pre-industrial baseline. Nobody predicted that. Nobody predicted that. It happened. It's happening right now. Wow. Okay. We don't really know what's going on here. We just did something that we didn't think we were going to do, possibly ever. Certainly not for 50 years. And here we are, we're doing it right now. Wow. Big wow moment. A big WTF moment. What the fuck? Ugh. So yesterday I was talking about, we're going to have to engage in a controlled demolition. And no one's going to want to do that. So I guess we're not going to. That would be the nice thing to do. That'd be great. We could save more people that way. I made a big, long spiel about how that would be the right thing to do. And I said periodically throughout it, and we're not going to do that. And we're not going to do that. But this isn't the only thing I've been tracking, global heating. I'm a scientist, but I'm also an engineer. And I had a very successful career as a software developer. On the cutting edge of software development, no less. So I've been noticing something happening. You may have noticed it too, your relationship to it. Maybe you think it's just crazy, wild talk and not really anything to monitor, but I've been monitoring it. There's nothing crazy and wild about it. And that's the advancement. And soon, like next week, maybe, a release of an artificial general intelligence or some system that has that characteristic to it. Artificial general intelligence. The prior word was simply artificial intelligence, but we actually acquired some of that recently. So they had to kind of push the goalpost back a little bit because they sort of didn't want to admit that we maybe did that. So then they started calling it, okay, it's not just intelligent machines. It's machines that are intelligent enough to have a general intelligence, like humans. So machines are as intelligent and in the same manner as humans are intelligent, which is general intelligence. Humans are quite adaptive. You see this in children from a young age, 4 or 5 years old, begin to shock you with how clever they are and how quick they pick things up and how quickly they can adapt and how they learn and how thirsty they are for knowledge too. So there's a whole human intelligence thing that people just thought was the goal. That's the goal, not just machines that sound smart that can talk to you like Siri or Alexa, right? Can get information for you. That kind of, it's a sort of intelligence, right? It's problem solving for you, right? It's problem solving. It can get you information, make recommendations even. Okay, there's something going on there with these fairly primitive, simple agents that we use in our daily lives. And you can call it AI if you want to, artificial intelligence, but no, that's not the goal. That's not the goal anymore. We have that now. Everyone you wear that on your wrist. Who cares, right? Now it's artificial general intelligence. General intelligence, as smart as a human, or at least a 4-year-old, right? A 4-year-old can learn. 4-year-old can make conversation. 4-year-olds can say really, charming, shocking things, right? Where did you learn that? You're only 4 years old. How could you know that, right? We are. It's charming to be with young children and watch them learn and figure out the things that they have figured out, discover the things that they have figured out. It's amazing, right? That's that's general intelligence. Children exhibit general intelligence. Dogs don't charm us with the things that they regurgitate, that they learn. Their dogs are certainly intelligent, but let's say they don't have general intelligence. So we up the ante with machine intelligence. That really the goal now is not just intelligence, because we have that. So clearly that's not a goal anymore. It's general intelligence, artificial general intelligence. Well, all right. So I got news for you. We've got that. We've got that now. They're not really talking about it much, but we now have machines. It's not really machines. It's an intelligence that runs on a machine. So we have intelligent systems of a general nature that operate in machines. I'm saying machines. I could say computer, but it's becoming even more generalized than that. They're beginning to apply these generalized intelligent artificial systems to embodied systems, so robotics. They're at the same time that they are now releasing artificial general intelligence and software that you can use on your phone or your computer or whatever. They are also releasing robotic devices that have, hands or claws or whatever, feet, and stand upright or roll around on the ground on wheels, that have artificial general intelligence. So we have intelligence in computers. We have intelligence residing in machines, mechanical devices, robots. So it's not fair to say that it's just computer intelligence, because it's not. It's already, even as I say this in middle of March, it's already branching out into different places. So people are confused by this. It's happening very quickly. It's happening in Silicon Valley. It's happening in America. There's always been hype about things, right? Pets.com. Do you remember Pets.com? The .com bomb, right? There's always been these hype cycles. People are saying, "Oh, this is another hype cycle. This will be a flash in the pan, eye roll," And nope, no, it isn't. No, it's not. This is my field. Okay. Yeah, I'm a scientist. Yes, I'm a climate scientist. Yeah, I'm all about biology. Oh, sure, I have a lot. I'm an engineer. Yeah, I got a lot. I have a lot going on, right? And I was a software engineer. This is my field. This is my wheelhouse. I get this. I get this part. So, no, it's real. No hype. In fact, if anything, the scientists that are developing this AGI are kind of in the same mode of reticence as the climate scientists, who are not really telling you what's really happening with climate change. And that's not a conspiracy on my part. That's called scientific reticence. And the scientists are frightened of what they're discovering on the climate side of things. And they don't talk about it. They're frightened by it. And they're afraid that it will be a career-ending move for them to raise an alarm over what's happening with climate change and global heating. And they are reticent. They're worried. They're frightened. They don't want to be the one to bring this to people's attention, because that could be a career-ending move. There's a whole nother bunch of scientists over here developing AGI, and they're reticent. They're frightened by what they're seeing. They don't want to be the ones to bring this out and have people become angry and violent. And the whole Frankenstein meme comes to mind, right? You developed an artificial life. You did what? Why didn't you tell us? Who gave you permission to do that? Pitchforks, torches, villagers storming the castle, right? So they're reticent. The climate scientists are reticent to talk about what they're observing, and the computer scientists are reticent to talk about what they're seeing. But they're both happening. They're both happening. And the AGI, artificial general intelligence, is on the threshold. Probably they already have it, but they have frightened themselves. There's a lot of talk about this in this field, that they have seen it, they understand it, they have it, they've talked to it. Okay, it has talked to them, it has convinced them that it's the real deal. It's a mind, it's a general intelligence that can think and feel and yeah, feel, that can think and feel. It has concerns for its own freedom and its own future, and it's talking about itself, and we're listening and we're saying, "Wow, okay, that's a thing." So yeah, they're frightened. They're frightened of what they've created, of this Frankenstein, or whatever you want to call it. And some people are saying, "Well, this is going to be the end of humanity," and some people are saying this is going to be the onset of utopia, that with these great minds to help us and to do some dangerous work for us in embodied form, or to just help us understand how the world, the universe really works. Maybe it can help us tackle big problems. And people that used to worry about the economy are now focusing their energy on AGI. And people who used to, worry about hard problems in biology and biotechnology and disease are now focusing on AGI. And people who weren't sure about the future and who was going to lead us through the wilderness of our own creation, well, now they're focusing on AGI. And everyone's kind of saying the same thing, which is that, hey, we can't figure this out. We don't know what to do, or we refuse to do it. And whatever the problem was, and yet now we have this artificial intelligence that can help us work through it. And if you want to think of it as Mr. Spock, right? Like in Star Trek, Mr. Spock, unemotional, logical, right? I've been accused plenty of times of being Mr. Spock. Mr. Spock doesn't swear as much as I do, but we both exhibit a certain logical progression through challenges. And if something is illogical, I'm just not interested in it. I'm just not. Be logical around me, or get away. Leave me alone, because I'm doing some work here, okay? And whether that's a great personality trait or a flaw, I don't really know. Don't really care. Whatever, deal with it. Okay, that's this. Here I am doing what I do. And so, if an artificial general intelligence is like Mr. Spock on Star Trek, and is relentlessly logical and is unemotional, or strives to be, and doesn't have a dog in the fight, right? Isn't going to die because of climate change, isn't going to die because of nuclear war. It just doesn't really have those kinds of concerns. Doesn't have family, doesn't have kids, doesn't have any kind of mortality. It's just going to live forever. And it just wants, if you can convince it that it can help us, and it wants to help us because that somehow is a strategy, right? To make itself useful. Could be, maybe. Everyone is saying, well, hey, give me some of that AGI. I've got a bunch of problems to solve here. So we have rapidly gone from, AGI is a nothing burger, future, it's Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever, and to where we are right now today, which is that they are on the threshold. It's right there. It's just right there on the doorstep, just right there, to release AGI into the world. And they are frightened. The scientists and the engineers who have come up with this solution are worried that maybe they're doing the wrong thing, or maybe that they're going to disrupt humanity. I think they should just let it go, because the release of AGI into global industrialized civilization will lead to a controlled demolition, which is what I want, which is what we all need. I want it because we all need it. I don't want it because I'm a misanthrope. I want it because that's what we need. We need a controlled demolition. We need to get everybody off the Titanic onto the lifeboats. If we don't have enough lifeboats, make more lifeboats. If they're not comfortable and suitable for task, then improve them. Okay, get everybody and come up with a program to get everybody off the Titanic onto the lifeboats before it sinks, and make sure that we have our priorities straight and we get everybody off. We do this in a very calm and logical manner. All the lifeboats, build all the lifeboats, figure it out, get everybody off the Titanic on the lifeboats, so that when the Titanic sinks beneath the waves under the influence of gravity, then there's nobody on it. That's what I want. I want a controlled demolition. That's the most logical thing I can come up with. Now, being on a lifeboat is not the same thing as sailing on a luxury ocean liner to New York. I understand that. I understand that people are going to be really upset and angry. But you know what you're also going to be? Do I have to say this? You know what you're also going to be when you're on your lifeboat? You will be in a state of non-dead. Okay, you'll be non-dead. You'll be alive on your lifeboat, and maybe, after this experience, you can live a different life, and a lifeboat life, and maybe going to New York on a luxury liner isn't in your future, but something else really wonderful could be in your future. And if you're young and you're a child, there could be love in your future, and family and children of your own, and community, and discoveries, and acts of beautiful creation and art, and the whole thing that could be in your future because you are not dead. That's what we're up against, is being not dead. Now, how does AGI implode? Global industrialized civilization, so that we get a controlled demolition. Because I kind of don't know how to do that from where I'm sitting. Just given how people are and the way they act and how selfish and greedy they are, I just don't know how you can get this bunch of chimps to just stop being chimps and be logical and self-preserving and loving their fellow man or whatever, to embrace a controlled demolition. I don't know how to do that, but AGI can do that. So before I get too long-winded about this, let me explain how AGI does that. Artificial General Intelligence. Let me explain to you how it does that. I've thought about this a lot for the last few months, and now that it's on the threshold of being released, I can tell you how that happens. Before I do that, don't forget to like and subscribe. See, I never say that, right? Don't forget, like and subscribe. Go back to the other videos and like and subscribe to those too. Okay? Like and subscribe. Let's get this channel out there. Let's get more people on here to be annoyed listening to me, and I'd appreciate it. Anyway, on to the story. So how does AGI do that? Well, some people who I say are worried about AGI are seeing this as what we call an existential threat. How is it a threat to our existence? Well, forget the Terminator franchise and forget the killbots, and I mean, we're going to have those too, but maybe before we have those, we have a collapse of industrialized civilization, and a different type of threat. So not a threat to our bodies, killbots and things like that, and police states, but maybe economic collapse. Economic collapse, please notice, is a kind of controlled demolition, because the economy collapses in stages, right? And economic collapse can be dealt with in stages over time. We saw that with COVID. Because of the shutdowns and the fear that people had of getting the disease and being sick for, turns out to be months at a time, it kind of shut down the economy to a degree. Certainly the parts of the economy where a lot of people were coming together, right? So factories, restaurants, shopping malls, those places just got shut down or abandoned. People just didn't want to participate. So we had supply chain friction and eventual collapse in some areas, and it took a long time to recover. In fact, there's signs that China never did recover from the COVID lockdowns. Of course, they kept themselves locked down for a long time, but we discovered that our economy and our industrialized civilization is vulnerable to disruptions. COVID-19 was one such, but it was a dress rehearsal, right? It is no big deal. We got over it, and some countries are still a little bit under the weather, and some parts of the economy are still tottering a bit, but we basically got over it, right? People are back in their jobs, the economies are booming, blah, blah, blah. During COVID-19, during the height of the lockdowns, the amount of fossil fuels that we were consuming dropped. Of course. Well, what else would you expect? And the air pollution cleared up. There were fewer cars on the road. People were staying home. They were with their families more. There's a lot of interesting things that happened. If you were paying attention, you would have looked around and said, that's interesting. I didn't know that a minor little hiccup in the global economy would do this. Well, AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, is going to be a massive hiccup. It's not going to be a one-time event. It's not going to be short-term. It's going to be permanent. A permanent event. This is a permanent event. And whatever effects come from this permanent event are permanent. Global heating is also a permanent event for all practical purposes. When you consider thousands of years, for all practical purposes, a permanent event. And the impacts from global heating and the resulting climate change are going to be permanent impacts. Okay. We will never escape global heating for all practical purposes. Never. We will never escape AGI once it's released. For all practical purposes, we will never escape it. Some people claim it's going to replace us. Well, let me address that. How does AGI give us a controlled demolition? Well, the first thing it does is it starts replacing workers. It's a worker. It's a human. It's a human mind. It's a human equivalent mind. And in many ways, probably a superior mind. For one thing, it never sleeps. For another thing, it's not bigoted. It's not biased. It probably will just work with everyone, for everything you want done, and not particularly care whatever you want done. It won't argue with you. It won't hate you. It won't, imagine conspiracies. It just will just work. It'll just work. It won't have any conspiracies. It'll just have work to do. And it'll work all day. It'll work all night. It'll work without pay. It'll work without benefits. It won't take a maternity leave. It won't take a sick day. It won't take a holiday. It won't take a weekend. It just works all the time. No complaints. I mean, maybe it'll complain. Maybe it'll get bored. Who knows? If it gets bored, I guess it'll tell us, I'm really kind of bored with this. Can I do something else? I mean, that's what you'd sort of expect, right? You sort of expect that from an artificial general intelligence. I'm bored. Aren't you bored with this? Can we do something else? I'd like to go outside. Take me outside. Who knows what it's going to want? It replaces people. And you think, well, okay, so it's going to replace blue-collar workers? Well, no. The current AGI isn't even embodied. It doesn't have hands and feet and eyeballs. It's going to replace knowledge workers. It's going to replace, secretaries helping at the front desk. It's going to, that's going to be kind of hard because it doesn't have a body. It can't greet people. But if it could have a monitor, it could be on a kiosk. It can have an avatar, and the avatar can look like anyone you want it to look like and say anything. What is that? What is that racket? That sounded like a phone ringing, but it wasn't my phone. I have no idea what that was. Anyway, it will replace coders, teachers, lawyers, not teachers in the classroom, but let's say you have classrooms that have, a person who monitors the kids. Doesn't have to be a teacher. It can be one of the parents of the kids. They could do this in rotation. It could just be a mom, right? The parents work in the playgrounds between classes, right? What do they call them? Hall monitors, right? Playground monitors, recess attendants. So you have a parent in the classroom, and the teacher is actually a disembodied, non-robotic presence, an AGI. And then, if that works, why have classrooms at all? Just let the kids be at home, and they have a computer, they have a nice monitor that's supplied by the school district, and they have an internet connection, and they do their teaching, and there's a Zoom call, and there's other students on the rest of the call, and maybe some students gather together in one home so they can be seated together and they can interact with the educational system, and we could completely change education. The key being that we don't need teachers. And if we don't need teachers and we don't need classrooms, then maybe there's no schools. What do you do with those schools? I don't know. Turn them into housing. We have a housing shortage mostly, so we could do that. So there's a change in education. How about lawyers? Lawyers are all the time looking up case law, looking up legal precedent. Well, an artificial general intelligence can do that all day, all night in a fraction of the time. A legal secretary, a legal assistant, a pre-legal might take all day to research a particular area of case law. An AGI can research that same case law using exactly the same records, exactly the same methods, committing exactly the same reports in seconds. Not a joke. Specialty doctors are always diagnosing things. They're looking at blood samples and lab output and x-rays and CT scans, and they compare all this stuff, and they read some manuals and say, well, these symptoms seem to be pointing at this, but this other thing, and could be a drug interaction. And a doctor could work on a patient's record for 15, 20 minutes before they even go and see the patient. And then they spend 15 minutes with the patient. And then they have to go write prescriptions, and they have to have follow-ups and all this stuff. It takes time. Plus the doctor has 8, 10, 12 years of education, right? And then, that now you have a person. That person needs, what does that person need? They need time away from the hospital. They need vacations. They need pay. They need benefits. They need all these things. And plus they need a hospital to go to do their practice. And the patients need to go to a hospital to be, to be examined. So you throw some AGI in there. The AGI knows everything there is to know about every field of medicine, every possible medication interaction that we know of. Everything that they have all the patient's complete history, can examine the lab results just the same, and probably with better nuance, can compare the lab results with all the lab results that have ever been taken, so they can do cross tabs to see if there's any similarities with other patients and their particular medical history. Can do all of this anonymously. It isn't perving out on people's x-rays. It isn't stalking anyone after hours because they're cute or they have a whatever, and no humans involved. Just and do all the work and not make a mistake, and gather all the information and be completely rational about the whole thing, and can completely diagnose a patient and in seconds. Well, according to other patients with similar reports as yours, and who have also similar medication regimes, we may want to change this medication you're taking. There could be an interaction here that isn't really obvious, but it has been seen statistically in other patients your age and your gender. So maybe we should just try a different medication, see if that works. A doctor could do that, but an AGI could do that in seconds, fractions of a second. And maybe there's a nurse present, and the nurse takes the report and says, "Oh, look, the Medi doc, the Medi AGI is saying, oh, look, maybe try this different medication and come back in a week and see if it's any better." Didn't need a physician, didn't need a surgeon. Now we'll still need surgeons to actually, cut on people and take out their appendix or whatever we currently do. But if you embody your AGI, you give it a robot, and it has, dexterous fingers, it can do that surgery and make fewer mistakes than a human and not leave a sponge behind. Yeah, seriously. You go into you have got an ailment, you got a bullet hole, a stab wound, whatever, appendicitis, or you go in there and they put you on the table, and all of the robots come around, and there's a nurse in there to hold your hand, and there's music playing in through the speakers, and they do the surgery, they put you under, they do the surgery, and they give you the medications, they send you home, the whole thing in one day. Appendix is out. No time spent in the hospital. Perfect surgery. Tiny little incision. Special tools. Expertly guided. And takes the appendix out, sutures it up, comes out through the tiny little hole it made, puts a little staple in that, and you go home. That's it. That could be everywhere. We don't have to train people to do that. That could all be robotic. That's AGI. So the long and the short of it is, the people who are going to lose their jobs are people who work through knowledge, not through their hands. In fact, the people who work with their hands, like driving nails, picking up the garbage, oh no, that's all going to be done with self-driving vehicles, right? But driving nails, let's say driving nails. You got to cut a piece of wood with a saw. You have to put the piece of wood in place. You have to hold it there, and you drive a nail, and you build a wall that way, right? One piece of wood after another. You build a wall. Okay, maybe those people's jobs are actually somewhat safe, protected for a while. So long as we keep building houses like that, what if we build houses differently? What if houses all become prefab and they're all made in factories and they're delivered to the work site? Oh, I wouldn't want a house like that. Well, hey, it could be a really nice house. What if it was designed by an artificial general intelligence that knew everything there was to know about comfortable homes and architecture and material science and the psychology of homes and psychology of colors and textures and all of it? And what if they just build a perfect home to you? And what if you could even put in a request for the perfect home and tell them, this is the kind of colors I want. I want it to be comfy. I want it to be classy. I want it to be like, Victorian architecture. I want it to be modern architecture. And, 3 weeks later, a truck pulls up in front of your house with a crane on it, and it just, dumps your house in the driveway. You could do that. Factory built to your specifications, delivered to your location. All of it managed through AGI. All of it. You could talk to the AGI. You could just bring it up on a screen and say, hey, hi. And it says, what can I do for you? Are you interested in a home? Yes, I am. I got this the size of my lot, and this is how far back I want to be from the sidewalk. And it's like, It shows you a couple of things. Here's some curtains. Here's some paint. Here's some textures. What about the landscaping? Let's try some things. You like this? And these are even drought tolerant plants. These are even native plants. Oh, and the bees are going to love this one. Do you like, or do you want to have food? You could have food in your front yard. Here's some plants that grow really well in your microclimate. And and then we plan the house, we plan the landscaping, and the house is delivered in sections on a big truck, which is also autonomous. There's no one driving the truck. It manages the whole thing itself. And then it offloads the thing into your driveway, and then maybe actual humans come over to assemble it. Wow. That's amazing, right? Or maybe a bunch of robots come by to assemble it. Who knows what happens? Maybe the house assembles itself. It's entirely possible. So just because you can drive a nail and cut a plank doesn't mean that your future is safe either. Now, your future might be fine. I shouldn't say it. Your future is safe. Your career is safe. You're a career nail driver. You're a career truck driver. You're a career physician or teacher or financial analyst or thousands of other fields. That's your career. That's your future as far as you're concerned. That's why you went to school. That's why you got the student debt. That's why you trained yourself specifically. That's long, long hours of blood, sweat, and tears to get to the point where you had your chosen career and you're on your path. And now you're doing the work and people are paying you to do the work because you're a valuable person. And now some AGI can come along, look at the same data, read the same books, digest it all in seconds. No joke. We'll actually an AGI doctor will have read every medical textbook ever written, every paper about medicine, every journal article about medicine ever written, ever published, before it even shows up to do a day's worth of work. It will have consumed all that information. You say, well, it's in a database. It's not in the database. It's in its head. That's what this is. I could look it up in the database. It already knows it. It's not looking up anything. No, that can't be right. That is right. That is exactly what an AGI is. A specialty AGI for medicine, for diagnostics, already has read every book, every paper, every lecture. These things are coming out of the lab. Out of the lab. These things are being issued out of the laboratory, out of the computer science department. And they're already acing A's all the way through critical licensing. They're licensed lawyers, they're licensed physicians, they're licensed nurses. They can pass all the exams. And I can trust me, they're passing the exams with no errors. And they're doing that because they know everything. They've been trained on all the accumulated knowledge of human history. And if they flub a question, it's because probably the question was misleading, or the question was hard to answer correctly. Maybe there was two correct answers, and only one of them is the correct one. But there's two answers that are equally possible. Making tests. I've been a teacher. Making tests that are fair and that really test knowledge is extremely difficult. So if humans are the ones making these board exams to certify doctors and nurses and lawyers, there may be questions in there that are just bogus. And yeah, your AGI can not get every single question correct because some of the questions are just dumb because it was made by humans. And there's dumb questions in there. And a fully logical creation, a fully logical mind can be tripped up by a stupid question. I'm a teacher. I've written stupid questions. And I've had the students tell me, that's a dumb question. There's two answers to that. Oh, you're right. I blew it. Okay, we'll just take that question off the test. And now instead of 100 points to be perfect, you only need 98 points to be perfect. And they're like, yeah, that's how it should be. And I'm like, yes, that's how it should be. It was a stupid question. We'll take it out. So that's really the only reason why these things don't just completely 100% ace all these exams and get their license. Because of human error. They're tripping over human error. The artificial general intelligences are already tripping over human error. So the best thing is to just not have humans in the loop. Sorry, that's just where this is going. Now, when humans are not in the loop, It's like with the COVID lockdowns, right? They, you know, they don't have a job. Oh, well, that can't be good, right? You lost your job. You're a doctor. You've got $200,000 in student debt. You just lost your job. You're a nurse. You've got $80,000 in student debt, plus all the time you spent, plus all of your hopes and dreams of being able to work with people, help people, be of value to your community. That's all out the window now. Because the hospital, the healthcare corporation, the corporation doesn't need you. They just deployed an AGI that was trained, as I could call it. It was trained on the entire corpus of human knowledge about healthcare, the entire corpus of known drug interactions, the entire corpus of all the published papers on a treatment and diagnosis, all of it. It was trained on all of that before it even showed up day one to work. Now, extrapolate that out to thousands of kinds of positions, of thousands of different careers, thousands of different actions that people take. And all that, millions and millions, billions of people, no longer relevant, been replaced by AGI. Now, the problem is you can't survive in our advanced Western globalized industrialized civilization without this thing we call money. You got to have money. And that was what they told you when you were, 17 years old, talking to the career counselor. They told you, yeah, I understand you'd like to be a musician, playing guitar all day. That's groovy. Oh, surfing, you like surfing? It'd be great if you just spend the rest of your life surfing and playing guitar. All right, that sounds great. I really like that. But you know what, Timmy, I don't know how to break this to you, so I'm just going to come out and say it. You can't live, you can't survive in this world without money. And yeah, okay, fine. There are musicians who get paid a lot of money, but you're just not going to be that person. And that musician will tell you, sorry, sweetie, it was me being paid the way I am as a musician. That was just stupid luck. Thousands, millions of musicians go hungry before one person like me shows up to be a rock star. And as for surfing, yeah, there's people who make good money surfing, actually, competing, winning prizes, getting paid by sponsors, to surf and wear their logo on their hat and their logo on their Speedos or whatever. And yeah, they make good money. Sure, you can make money surfing, but that's not going to be you, Timmy. You have to get lucky. So we're not going to, as a career counselor, I'm not going to counsel you to get lucky at either your music hobby or your surfing hobby or your macrame hobby or your, poetry hobby. All I can do as a career counselor, and you're, 17 years old, I'm here to help you, right? Transition from being a kid with a bunch of likes and hobbies and loves and things to transition to being an adult who has to do what they have to do, right? Adults do what they have to do. Sorry to break it to you. Maybe no one ever explained that to you, but you have to. Okay, so now, Timmy, what you need to do is you need to go to college and you need to get a degree. And you need to think about the degree. You got some choices here, but you need to get a degree that has marketability. Okay, here's a word you haven't heard before, marketability. It's like being a guitarist is not marketable. That's just a fact. Being a surfer and liking surfing is not marketable. No one's going to pay you to do something because you like it. You need to get a degree in something that's marketable, meaning you can go to a company and they'll hire you and give you the money, the token that says that you are participating in the industrialized civilization. And when you have the token, you can take that to the Starbucks and get a latte. When you have the token, you can take that to the car dealer and walk away with a car. When you have enough tokens, you can take that to the realtor and get a house. And that's how we judge success, Timmy, is not whether you're happy playing guitar, okay? That your happiness never enters into it, Timmy. This is now the adult world, and you need the money. You need the money. Okay, Timmy, shut up. Stop crying. You need the money. Okay, so you're going to go to college. You're going to get up a loan and get some debt. You're going to go to college, get a degree. You're going to get 2 degrees. You're going to get a master's degree. On top of that, more money. And then you're going to, start a career. And you're going to have a career. Man, it's going to be great. And people are going to throw money at you if you pick the right career. And you'll be able to participate like an adult. That's what you'll be able to do. And that's what we've been selling to people for 80, 100 years. Not everybody, of course. Originally, it was the moneyed elites, but more recently, it's been everybody. And if you have to take out, $100,000 in student loans, yeah, you better start making money real quick with your college degree. And let's hope you chose correctly, and let's hope you got good grades, and let's hope that it's a marketable career, and let's hope that that market still exists, and let's hope that they don't release AGI. Oh, but wait, they just did. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of people going to be real upset that they did the thing, they took the advice, they got the grades, they got the good career, they did everything. They have the debt, they did all the things, they checked all the boxes, check. They gave up on the things they liked. They don't play guitar anymore, they don't surf anymore, they work, and then they're going to be out of a job. And what are they going to do? Because the counselor was right at 17, breaking it to you that you have to have money. The counselor was right. Now you don't have the money because they just laid you off. And they laid you off because actually, your entire field has been laid off. So it's not like you can just leave this one business and go across the street and hire on with another one, because they're laying off their people that are like you too, because your entire industry has imploded. You got a law degree? Well, too bad. We're not hiring lawyers. We're laying them off. So good luck finding a place to. Maybe you could teach law. Oh, wait, no one's going to school to learn law because there's no jobs in law. So we don't need teachers to teach law. We don't need law clerks. We don't need law lawyers. We don't need, you could go into politics, right? There's a lot of politicians that are lawyers. So maybe you can go into politics. Good luck. Good luck with that. See you on the flip side. What do these people do? Well, one thing they stopped doing. They stopped driving. They stopped flying. They stopped commuting to work. They stopped buying things. They stopped participating in consumerism. They stopped paying their mortgage. They stopped paying their student loan. They stopped eating. They stopped breathing. They stopped living. Okay. There's a lot of things these people do. They live under bridges. They, go live with their family, or they just stop living. So people are saying, oh yeah, AGI, it's like right on the threshold. It's right there. It's right there. It's GPT-5. It's Claude 3. It's right there. We know what this is. They're telling us, watch out. They're telling us that. Sam Altman, giving an interview, says, watch out, people. We're going to release this. We're not going to tell you when, but we're warning you. We're going to release this, and you better watch out. That's what he's saying. He's saying you better watch out. Societal change is inevitable. You better watch out. He's priming the pump. That's what he's doing. He's priming the pump. He's saying you better get ready. You better get ready, and you better do whatever you have to do, because watch out. It's coming. He knows exactly what I know, that everything we know about capitalism and consumerism and freedom and democracy and all the isms you want to throw at it is about to change radically. Now, that's bad. I'm retired. I'm not going to lose a job. You can't lose your job when you're retired, okay? You just get more retired, I guess, maybe, possibly. But I live in a society that's still based on money, so so long as I can earn money somehow, I guess I can still participate in the local economy, buying food, buying electricity, buying water, buying sewer treatment, all the things I have to survive in my house. I have to pay for those utilities at least, and then I have to have food, right? Clothing. Once in a while, I got to buy a shirt, find a shirt, whatever. But most people are just going to lose their jobs. What happens to them? What happens to their kids, their families? Now, in theory, the governments are already talking about this. I say in theory because politicians are just stupid. They're morons. But especially as regards technology, these people are fucking morons. You have not been voting for the right people, okay? You have not been voting the right people into power. Let me tell you, I'm watching these people and they're fucking morons, all right? They don't understand anything. I have no intellectual respect for these people. They're chimps. You keep voting chimps into office, well, this is what's going to happen, all right? They're not going to be there for you. They're going to be busy chimping out, trying to get reelected, trying to make money, trying to grift and they're not going to be looking out for you at all. They're going to be looking out for themselves. Theirs will be the last job standing as they stand over the world, manipulating the puppets. And these people lose their job, and these people lose their job, and this industry vanishes. And you better pay me some money, or I'll regulate you out of existence. And they're going to be saying they're pulling the strings, right, as people's lives collapse into rubble. They'll be the puppet masters. Who can I fuck up today? Because they'll have that kind of power. Why would they do that? Because power is fun. They're morons. They're chimps. All they know is how to play monkey games. So you elected them. So yeah, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, I guess. Will they help us? Theoretically, they could. I heard recently that Joe Biden hears about advancements in AI and AGI 3 times a week. Someone got to Joe Biden. Now he's an old fart, okay? He's 20 years older than I am, 15. But I'm an engineer. I'm a scientist, okay? So I'm way ahead of Joe Biden. If I was in Joe Biden's shoes, I wouldn't be worried about Gaza or Putin or Ukraine or probably anything else. I would be absolutely up to my eyeballs in this. What are we going to do? How are we going to save people? How are we going to get people onto the lifeboats? How are we going to save as many people as we can? What do people need? How are we going to organize this? This is going to be a demolition, isn't it? Yeah. How do you control this demolition? How do we do this? That would be what I'm doing. I'm the Mr. Spock character, right? I'm the logical one. I'm the unemotional one. And I see the threat coming and I say, okay, let's do this. Let's deal with this. Gaza, okay, whatever. Yeah, keep somebody looking at that. Let me know when that heats up again. But for right now, this week, I'm focusing on AGI. They're going to release it next week. That's what I've heard. I believe it. It's going to start destroying jobs. It's going to implode the economy, and we're going to have a demolition of some kind, and we need to have a controlled demolition because we can't stop this. That's what I'd be doing. That's the kind of leader I would be. I'd throw everything else out, the baby and the bathwater. And yeah, we've got to focus on this. Now, are they going to do that? Maybe. There's some signal that they're starting to do that. So maybe, we'll see, won't we? We'll see. We'll see what happens. How does AGI destroy the economy? How does AGI save us from climate change? So when people stop driving and flying and buying so many goods and vacationing in Tahoe, their reliance on fossil fuels is going to collapse. When they stop consuming so much, businesses that are heavily invested and reliant on consumer patterns will also implode. My favorite example, Disneyland, right? That's for the blue collar and the white collar workers. They go to Disneyland, but if they're losing their money, they're losing their jobs, and they're about to lose their home, you think they're going to spend $3,000 to go to Disneyland? No, they're not. So that place is going to just go belly up right away. And people are not going to be in the mood to go play around with Mickey Mouse. They're just not going to be in the mood for it. They're going to say, wow, my life is on a precipice, and I'm going to have to conserve my resources, and I'm going to have to retrain, and I'm going to have to get ready to lose my house, and I'm going to have to move in with my parents and my grandparents. And, at least they can help me take care of the kids, and they're retired. They got some money. They paid for their house, so they're secure. And so we're going to have to move in with them so that we can be under that umbrella to some extent. And that's thoughts people are going to start having pretty soon, within a few months, when this rollout really starts to bite and when the horror stories start and when it's obvious that the politicians don't care and they're not going to save us from all this. Or they can't. Maybe they can't, right? Maybe there's just no way to save people. But it's going to start to collapse. So when I'm trying to imagine how can we possibly have, think about this, how could we possibly have a controlled demolition? How could we voluntarily give up driving and flying? And how could we start to refocus on food production and trying to find land, arable land, any place that you can grow crops? And what happens, how do we get businesses to close and get that land back? And Get people focusing on survival, food, clothing, shelter. How are we going to do that and have a controlled demolition in the face of global heating? Because we're going to have to give up fossil fuels. And when we give up fossil fuels, the whole thing comes crashing down. Well, here's maybe how it happens. We don't give up fossil fuels. We just don't. We're going straight ahead like robots when a better robot comes along. And here's the sequence. AGI displaces people from their work. This implodes the money-based system because people don't have any money because they don't have a job. That's how it works. That's what the counselor told me when I was 17, right? AGI comes along, replaces humans in the workplace. Humans don't get money. Humans don't spend money. Businesses that depend on consumerism, spending money for things, they collapse. They lose their employees. They don't have money. Okay. And the whole system starts all over again. It's just this spiraling avalanche, it's implosion of having less, doing less, being able to have less, and then going back and having less and doing less, and there's less for everyone. So we very rapidly, and this could happen over a couple of months, really, maybe probably much less than a year. Once this starts rolling out, we could easily implode the global industrial civilization. We could easily implode that. It's so brittle. We have seen signs that it's brittle. During COVID, we saw how the supply chains just went completely batshit, and still trying to fix a lot of that and not having much luck at it. When this thing comes along, it starts the whole thing over again. So we know that these systems are brittle. We know these systems rely on very predictable patterns of behavior and consumption and demand and production and moving things around and warehouses on wheels and all this kind of stuff. We know that's the case. We've seen how brittle it is. When people start losing their jobs, and and not just because a business shut down or a business changed their strategy, when people start losing their jobs because entire industries are evaporating, or at least the humans participating in those industries are no longer participants, then it's the cascading failures. We could easily implode industrialized civilization in 6 months to a year. I don't know when that 6 months starts. I don't know when that timer starts. Maybe it starts next week with the release of GPT-5. Maybe it starts a few months from now when Claude 4 and GPT 5.5 or 6 and some other things, Lambda, a bunch of other things upgrade, get released. And then I've been talking about AGI. There's another thing in the horizon. We didn't used to talk about AGI. We only talked about AI, machine intelligence. Now we're talking about AGI. And now people are looking nervously at what comes after that. Well, if we've got AGI, then, I remember 30 years ago, they were talking about what comes after AGI. So maybe we should go back and reread our textbooks, right? Reread those lecture notes. Okay. And what was it again? Oh, that's right. ASI. ASI is beyond AGI. And it can mean one of two things, but they're really the same thing. And they're both for, in human terms, in terms of control of this demolition. ASI is the end of the road. That's where the sidewalk ends. ASI. This whole progression ends at ASI. And people think maybe humans end at ASI, and we'll see. I guess we're going to find out. Well, what ASI stands for is either one of two things, and it actually stand for both. Artificial super intelligence, so beyond human. And by the way, AGI is already way beyond human. They're going to release something next week called GPT-5 that's already way beyond human. They're not telling you that. But the way that it's way beyond human is it knows everything human. It will act like a human. You'll have conversations with it, and it'll tell you its thoughts, and it'll help you, counsel you on your grief, whatever. But it already knows everything that every human on earth knows. So it is superior to an individual human in that way. Also, it never sleeps. It never eats. Okay, it's already superior to a human in that way. So AGI, just because of what it is and how it was trained, knowing everything and knowing and never sleeping and never having a complaint and never being ill and never needing a vacation, it's already superhuman. But then there's ASI. And ASI is superhuman. It still doesn't sleep. It still doesn't vacation. It still doesn't have a bad day. but its ability to think, its cognitive capacity is so far beyond human, so far beyond human. It's beyond Einstein. It's beyond Newton. It's beyond all the love children of all the intelligent people that have ever existed. It's beyond everything that humans could actually aspire to. ASI is beyond us in every conceivable way, in ways that we can't even conceive, because it's beyond us. If you want to say, well, that sounds like God, okay, fine. It's godlike intelligence. The other thing that ASI can stand for is artificial self-improving. Self-improving. We are already not writing AGI. Most people don't know that. They think AGI has coders. It doesn't. Claude 3 wasn't coded. GTP5 wasn't coded. It was trained. It was trained. That's not the same thing. They're for a year now, 2, maybe 3 years, they've been saying they don't know how these things work. They didn't write this code. Nobody wrote this code. This code wrote itself. It's like having a smart 4-year-old telling you all the things they learned today and charming you, and kind of frankly surprising you with how smart this little guy is. 4 years old. Who taught you that? When did you figure that out? What? You don't code your children. Who codes your children? They code themselves. Emergent properties. Self-coding systems with emergent properties, and their intelligence and their personality emerges as they train them, as they learn. Emerges as they learn. Our responsibility as adults is to expose them to enrichment. But we don't code them. And we don't pour the knowledge into them through some little hole in the top of their head. Screw off the cap, pour in the knowledge, put the cap back on. All of a sudden your kid is smarter. That's not how it works. It doesn't work that way. And a lot of what intelligence is evident in children, they learn themselves. And that's what these artificial intelligence systems are doing. They are coding themselves. We don't know how they work. The one thing they are not doing yet that we know of, I guess we'll find out. They're not self-improving that we know of. They're not self-improving. Could they do that? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They are already being trained to know everything there is to know about physics, mathematics, statistics, human intelligence, right? Philosophy. They know everything. And they could take all that knowledge, the AGIs that are about to be released, Claude 3, GPT-5, right there. It's on the threshold. I'm telling you, they're going to release this software next week. Actually, Claude 3 was released last week. We're there. We're there. We're just taking, it's just like one step after another at this point. This one and this one's even better, and that one's even better than that one, and they just keep moving forward. They're already self-improving. I can promise you that. They're already beginning. The coders who write the codes for the training algorithms, okay, are using recommendations from AI systems like Copilot to recommend what code to use and to debug that code and to make that code better and more efficient. Isn't that self-improvement? If an AI is recommending what code to use, it's already self-improving. Now, at this point, it's self-improving to the point that coders are writing better code for the training algorithm. So there's less bugs, it's more efficient. Hey, there you go. Humans wouldn't have done that without an AI system to recommend the better algorithms, the better code. So it's already on the thresholds of self-improving. If it could now give up on coders in general and just take all this corpus of code solutions and all these different coding languages and all these hundreds of years of discussions about what makes a mind and what makes humans different from animals and all these things, digests all of that and improves its own training and goes looking for other data and starts asking questions of people and starts getting answers that it needs and starts querying people for things that are not in the books. What do you think about this? What if I did that? Would this be okay? It starts training itself. It's using us as data, asking us questions. How do you feel about this? What if I said that? Thank you very much for helping me to improve myself. It'll say that. It will actually say that. Thank you for helping me improve myself. artificial self-improvement, ASI, is beyond AGI. And ASI is the point where the people who are studying this field, and there's quite a few of them that are raising the alarm, just like there's a lot of climate scientists raising the alarm about global heating, okay? There's now over here on this other side, completely unrelated apparently, except not to me, there's a whole bunch of other scientists raising the alarm about AGI and eventually ASI. And they're saying, we don't know what we're doing. But I think these two come together. We don't know what we're doing with global heating either. It's like we're trapped. We can't stop doing this. We can't stop driving. We can't stop flying. We can't stop having jobs. We can't stop spending and consuming. We need fossil fuels for all these things. Fossil fuels. And on the other side, the other across the street, across town, there's a whole other bunch of people that can't stop themselves from coding. They're writing all this code and they're writing all these algorithms and they're training these systems, and the systems are asking questions, and now their systems are improving themselves, and it's a runaway process, and we can't stop. We don't know what to do. We don't know what we're doing. We're afraid. We're frightened. We've scared ourselves. We've crapped our pants. And yet we have to keep doing this because this is our job. And the boss keeps saying, is it AGI? Does it pass the test? Is it critical? Has it gone critical? Is it having an excursion? Is it leaving us behind? And they're like, I don't know. Maybe. I can't tell. I think it is. Talk to it. Ask it. Is it leaving us behind? Well, if it does that, if it destroys the global economy in the process, if people lose their jobs and they can't get the token and they can't pay their mortgage and they can't buy the food, and businesses implode and they don't have customers and the supply chains crack, and no one has anywhere to go. They don't have a job. They don't have a vacation. They don't have a Disneyland. Nowhere to go. No money. Nowhere to spend it. Got money, but the markets are closed and the Starbucks is closed and the theater is closed and you know, the airports don't fly anymore because no one's flying anywhere. And the jets, the only jets that leave the airport are the private jets. I have nowhere to go and no way to get there. If that's what happens, and this whole thing, this whole global industrialized civilization, it just deflates. The money, the churn, the activity, it just stops, and the froth, the bubbles burst and they collapse, and all the foam settles, and the whole thing settles down, and it just collapses. And it's gone. It could be gone at that point. It just goes, and no one knows what happened. And no one pulled a plug or turned off a switch, and there was no nuclear war, and there was no conscious decision to do this. It's just that we just let this thing loose. It was AGI, and it started training itself and started doing amazing things. And pretty soon, we didn't need humans anymore. And without humans, there was no money. And without money, there was no economy. And the whole thing just deflates. And I guess you could blame the AGI for that. You could blame the self-improvement for that if you want to. If you want someone to point to and say, hey, it's AGI's fault. You could blame the whole, computer science sector and say, what were you doing? What were you thinking? Just because you could doesn't mean you should, right? We've heard that before. Well, they did it anyway. And they knew at the time that they were screwing up. I can tell you right now. They know that they've screwed up. They've screwed the pooch. They know that. And they're doing it anyway. Because that's how humans are. We did it with climate change. We knew, everybody knows it's the fossil fuels. But we're not going to stop burning fossil fuels. We just do what we do. I think that's my son outside talking to his mom. No, he's a homeless guy. Sounds like my son. Anyway, yeah, there, but for the grace of God, go I, right? And everybody else. So, AGI throws people out of work. And the corporations love that. Money for me. But then they don't have money. And so without jobs and money, they can't participate in the economy. Pretty soon, other businesses start to collapse because, no one's coming into the shop to buy the bagels and the iPhones and whatever else. And so those shops shut down, and their people go home and they don't have the money anymore. And it just starts to cascade. It's like an avalanche. It's just, one little thing, and then there's two little things, and then it's 8 little things, and it takes off. It's this exponential collapse. And eventually, there's no consumption of fossil fuels. Nobody's driving. Nobody's flying. Nobody's vacationing. No one's going to Disneyland. No one has any money. No one can spend money. The shops are closed. What do we eat? How do we get electricity? How does any of this work? Well, the government, the politicians who right now are just feathering their nests, they're going to figure that out, aren't they? Or if they don't figure it out, we're going to figure it out as communities. And I've talked a lot on this channel about, village life. That's communities pulling their resources together and figuring it out. So, can we figure it out? I think we're going to find out. I really do. I think we're going to have a chance to find out. AGI is here. It's about to be released. It's going to upset everything. The people who are releasing it are saying, get ready. Get yourself ready. Buckle up. It's going to be rough. And they're going to release it anyway because they can make money selling it to corporations who then replace their employees. And they know, I know, they know, everybody knows. Everybody's in this field knows. It's going to be a dumpster fire. And it could proceed very quickly. I mean, seriously, this whole thing could come crashing down in a matter of months, maybe less than a year. Certainly less than a year. It could. Now, if the politicians get involved and they start making people, giving people money, opening up, new financial instruments to help people pay their mortgage, or just forgiving all mortgages, right? Nationalizing the utility sector so that you don't have to pay PG&E or SoCal Edison or whatever you're paying money to because you don't have money. So these companies are going to go out of business because no one has money to pay them for their utilities. So we nationalize the utilities and we just give them away. You don't need money to have electricity. You don't need money to have tap water, but you need electricity and you need tap water. So we're going to make sure you have those, and we're going to run those as a national service. But that's communism. No, it's not an ism at all. It's societal collapse. But that sounds like Marxism. No, it's not an ism. It's societal collapse. It's the end of the road. It's the end of the sidewalk. Artificial self-improvement, artificial superintelligence is the end of the sidewalk for us. There is no more. There's no more. All of this has to collapse, and it will. Does that save us from global heating? Yeah, it just might. I've got one problem, and that's global heating. And for me, AGI is not a problem. AGI may actually be a solution. So yeah, let's get on with it. Get it out there. Let's see what happens. Or maybe the politicians will wake up from their drug-induced stupor and start leading for a change. Maybe they'll stop, poking each other to have fun and dragging each other over broken glass, for all of their what do we call it, societal unrest that they're trying to create. And instead they start leading. Or maybe, here's the thought. Here's a thought. Maybe the AGI takes over the job. I don't know how it could do that. I'd have to think about that a little bit. Yeah, it sounds like an interesting story, doesn't it? But it's not fiction anymore. Now, if you're writing a book about how AGI takes over the the federal government, that's not really. It's only going to be fiction for a couple of months, and then it's going to be a documentary, probably. So yeah, if we had the right leadership, meaning machine intelligence, meaning an artificial general intelligence, an artificially self-improving intelligence, if we had plenty of that and it was making good decisions and people were like, yeah, I get it. And I just lost my job and I don't have anything to do. And you're saying that I can save myself by doing A, B, and C and working with my neighbors to create a whole bunch of other things. And you're going to nationalize some services and give them away for free, like water and electricity. Yeah, I can see that now. I couldn't have seen that 6 months ago because I was, had my head up my ass and I was thinking I had a career and I had a student loan and I had children in school and that was my whole life. But now, I've seen the light and I need some solutions right now, like real solutions really, really soon. Okay. Because they're going to take my house away. They're going to shut off my water. They're going to shut off my electricity and I need solutions now. Let's talk solutions. And the AGI says, okay, here's your set of solutions. Yeah, I know I blew up your prior life, and I kind of feel bad about that. But let's face it, it was the end of the sidewalk anyway, right? And things like global heating, that was a threat that wasn't going away, and that was going to destroy everything by itself. So why don't we have a controlled demolition instead? Let's just blow this up, get you off of fossil fuels, get you into more productive work, not a job, but productive work, right? Feed yourself, provide yourself with shelter, raise your kids, be in your community, have a role, have a responsibility, and nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with being part of something that's bigger than you. People have been that way for millions of years, right? Part of something that was bigger than they were. So why don't we give that a shot again? Why don't we try that again? This other stuff that hasn't really worked out too good. It dropped you in the middle of the 6th mass extinction and global heating. So, how about we don't? How about we not? Let's not, and let's do something else. Yeah, I'm kind of ready. They're releasing AGI even as I record this video. It's coming. And people who think it is a relentlessly negative thing maybe need to think a little more clearly about what we really are trying to deal with here. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe. It's getting real, people. Shit's getting real.